Welcome everyone to Ein Sof Learning. This week's Torah portion is Yitro. Last week was Parashat Beshalach, which, if we remember properly, was when God split the Red Sea to allow Bnei Israel to emerge from Mitzrayim unscathed. And the Mitzrim, the Egyptians, actually followed after Bnei Israel into the sea. And of course, Hashem let the waters fall and kill all of the Mitzrim. So it's an amazing thing that we see the forces of evil actually caused their own demise. They walked into the ocean, which caused their own death. And that's really the nature of evil. It's self-destructive. We each have a voice inside of us that really its goal is to self-destruct. Its goal is to keep you from reaching the level of construction that you would have otherwise been able to gain through listening to your Yetzer HaTov, your good inclination, which we know is the voice of your soul, while the body brings with it the negative inclination, what we call the Yetzer Hara. Also last week, Hashem rained down food for the children of Israel. Whenever they emerged from Egypt, they were in the desert, they became hungry, they became thirsty. They complained to Moses. Moses asked Hashem, and Hashem said, no worries, I'll bring you food. Hashem is a very merciful, very kind figure in all of these events that are taking place of coming out from Egypt. Going down to Egypt was the Midat Adin, attribute of judgment, which was through Shem Elokim. Shem Elokim is Midat Adin. But Yetziat Mitzrayim, coming out from Egypt, was through Shem Yudke Vavke, which is Midat Rachamim, the attribute of mercy. And of course, Yitro, in this week's Torah portion, is not his first time that he appears. If we remember properly, in a previous Parasha, Moses struck and killed an Egyptian slave owner, one of the taskmasters, who was beating one of the Israelites. And he killed the Egyptian taskmaster that was beating the Israelite. And the news got out, and Pharaoh learned that he had done what he had done. And Moses ran to the land of Midian, which is a neighboring land to Mitzrayim. And there he found his future wife, which we know is really Zipporah. Interesting, the name Sephora, I think there's a store with that name. It's actually named after Zipporah in the Bible. If you search it up, you'll find that the root of that word actually is Zipporah, which is Moses' wife. But her father's name, who was the person that he ends up meeting, Moses meets him, is Reuel. And Reuel, the sages tell us, is another name that Yitro went by. Yitro had multiple names. Reuel, Yitro, and others that we're not going to list now. But in this parasha, we're going to now hone in on the figure of Yitro, who he was, because we know that he actually used to serve idols. He was an idol worshiper. But he becomes not only the father-in-law of Moses through marrying off his daughter to Moses, right? But he actually ends up becoming one with the children of Israel. We're going to learn that in this video. So I want to take your attention to a particular verse in this parasha. It's verse number 11. It says, now I know that Hashem is greater than all the gods, all the deities. For with the thing that they plotted, with the thing that the Egyptians plotted against Israel, Hashem came upon them. That means Hashem responded, and the result was something disastrous for the Egyptians, right? Pharaoh and his army, they even chased them out of Egypt after having let them go. And they chased them into the ocean, and they caused their own demise. That's the nature of evil, self-destruction. So it's possible to hint in this particular verse, as it is known, that the Sefirot of Kedusha are 10 Sefirot. Not 9, not 11, but 10. But the Kedushah is just one side of the creation. There's also the side of impurity, what we refer to as the Sitra Achra. The Sitra Achra has its own set of Sefirot. But according to this teaching, There are actually 11 sefirot of tum'ah, of impurity. Not 10. And they correspond to the 11 curses. It's mentioned in Parashat Kitavo, if you're interested in hearing more about that. But anybody who thinks that they can get around Hashem's plan, which is to correct this world and to bring redemption and to bestow of His goodness to the creation, any person who believes that they can get in the way of the ultimate master plan of Hashem clearly lacks knowledge. Because you can never go against Hashem. Even the evil that exists in this world, it's very important to know, is within the control of Hashem. Hashem created darkness. He's not on par with darkness. He's not against the darkness. He created it. It is a facet of the creation. Therefore, there is light and there is darkness. And in order to appreciate the light, you need to contend with the darkness and overcome it. So that's just the nature of the creation. But even though in the side of deKedushah, there are only 10 sefirot, while in the side of impurity, tum'ah, there are 11, some people might think, they'll see that and they might think that that shows that there is an advantage in the side of impurity, because they have 11, while holiness only has 10, right? But that's actually not true. It's a disadvantage. The reason it's a disadvantage is because 10 of these 11 are the sefirot of impurity. But the 11th sefirah is actually a spark of deKedushah, believe it or not. Because the only way that tum'ah, impurity, can exist is if it's sustained by the light of Hashem. Even the evil has to be sustained by the light of Hashem. Because light is that which allows things to exist in the first place. Even if you're talking about an evil being, let's say a vessel of darkness that exists, it can only exist by virtue of the spark of light which exists at its core. But the point is that this spark of deKedushah is only an animating force for this kli of tum'ah, for this impure vessel. It never actually enters the makom of the tum'ah. It never enters the place of the impurity. Anytime a person, just to make it more practical, anytime a person commits a selfish act, which means that they transgress one of the mitzvot of the Torah, they acquire for themselves a level of tum'ah. And therefore, the light of their neshama, it cannot dwell within their vessel. No longer are they accessing the higher levels of their holy consciousness, because the neshama, the ruach, they actually depart from the body, from the person, and the person remains in a state where it's just the Yetzer Hara. Of course, if he does a teshuvah, if he returns and repents to Hashem, then he can merit to receive the light of his soul. But he has to first clean the vessel, which is what teshuvah really is about. It's about cleaning the vessel. The additional spark of deKedushah, which actually exists at the root of this vessel of darkness, it cannot enter the toch of the tum'ah. Toch means the inside. It can never enter the vessel of the darkness itself. People think this is an advantage. Really, this is a disadvantage for the impurity, since the power of the holiness, which really we said enlivens this vessel of darkness, even the animals, even whatever wicked people, even Hitler, there is a spark of deKedushah that is sustaining his existence. So nothing can exist without what we want to call the will of Hashem permitting it to exist. And that will of Hashem is referred to by this spark, by this nitzutz, called a spark of deKedushah. So Yitro, he actually believed previously that worshipping idols was the true path. That was what people today believe. People who even, they'll claim to believe in God, but they worship idols because whenever they have anger, they are in a certain respect denying the authority, the ultimate authority of Hashem. They're saying, nah, I know better. Hashem doesn't know as well, so I'm justified in my anger. That's actually a lot of arrogance, but that's also idol worshipping. Not to be so extreme, but that is in a way what the sages mean when they say that idol worshipping is the gravest sin. Do you ever see anybody bowing down to a stone? I mean, You do, but do you see Jewish people who are religious bowing down to stones? No, that's not what idol worshipping really means in our generation. Idol worshipping refers to any act, any speech, any thought that undermines the authority of the one who created this world, of the one who is the master of this world. And that's really what idol worshipping is. Yitro thought that since there are 11 sefirot in the side of tum'ah, side of impurity, and not 10, that was an advantage. But now we're receiving here this wisdom that is a disadvantage because they are unable to receive the light of the deKedushah. Within a vessel that is impure, it's impossible to receive holiness, and that's the disadvantage that they're under. But the moment that he heard that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did what he did for Israel by bringing the 10 makot, the 10 plagues, which we remember correspond to the 10 sefirot of Sitra deKedushah, he knew that the 10 sefirot of Kedushah is really what made the makot. He knew that the sefirot of holiness was responsible for the attack against Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and that's what struck the 11 sefirot of the Tum'ah and their people. Why is it that the Egyptians were liable to be attacked by the makot? Because if you really think about it, Pharaoh was responsible. So why were the Egyptians also taken into this account, to this punishment? Because they were immersed in the Tum'ah. So a person who is immersed in the Tum'ah, unfortunately they don't have any protection, at least not from Yudke Vavke. Yudke Vavke only protects those that are connected to him. Of course, every single Jewish person, their soul is a chelek of Hashem. Mamash. It's a part of Hashem. So, in a certain respect, Israel as a nation, as a collective, can never cease to exist. Which is why Am Yisrael Chai is a true statement. There is no such thing as a world without Israel. Can't exist. It just can't exist because Israel is the light of Hashem in this world. So since Hashem sustains this world, and this world can only exist with the light that Hashem sustains it by, then what really that comes down to practically is the souls of Israel. The souls of Israel are the sustainers because they are a chelek of Hashem. You can't have a creation without the light of Hashem. So through the makot, through the plagues, Yitro but he heard that this was the case. It became clear to him that really the Kedushah was in control. Really the Kedushah is more powerful, has the upper hand over the Tum'ah. And really the additional sefirah in the Klippah is to the detriment of the Tum'ah, not to the advantage. For now the Klippot have been attacked, and whoever relied on them, they did not get saved from the Kedushah. So that's also where we find ourselves today. We want to make sure that we are connected to Yudke Vavke, which means to reveal the neshama of the Jew. That's really what it means to be connected to Yudke Vavke, is to reveal the light of Hashem which exists inside, which we also know is not something that is physical, but it's referring to a level of consciousness. The entire Chokhmat Kabbalah is about learning how to expand your consciousness. Because the vessel of your consciousness is limited. So you have to expand the vessel to allow more revelation of the light, which we refer to as the fulfillment of your desire. And yes, you can live in such a state of being, such a state of consciousness in this world. That's where the Kabbalists find themselves. They find themselves in an upper world while their bodies are in this world. When they talk to you, what you see, if you're not connected to the light, is a physical person. But the tzaddik who's talking to you, what he sees is your soul. That's the level of the transformational effect of Chokhmat Kabbalah, because Kabbalah means just to receive. Chokhmah is the wisdom, or Chokhmah. Kabbalah means to receive the light of wisdom, which is Or Ein Sof, which existed before the creation. You're receiving the upper holiness, Kedushah HaElyonah. And now it becomes clear why Yitro is saying here, now I know He says, Ata yadati. Now I know. Meaning that with Israel coming out of Egypt, it became clear to me that the main control and the main power is in the hands of the Eser Sefirot deKedushah. And that Hashem is greater. He says that Hashem, Yud Hey Vav Hey, is greater than all of the deities, than all of the gods. What is he really saying? What's Yud Kei Vav Kei? What does it mean Hashem, Yud Hey Vav Hey, is greater than all of the other deities? Remember, Yud Hey Vav Hey is the 10 Sefirot. The crown of the Yud, every letter, not every, but some letters have a crown. The crown of the Yud corresponds to Keter on the Etz Chaim, on the tree of life. The Yud itself represents Chokhmah of the tree of life. The letter Hey, the first Hey, is Binah. This is all in the Sitra deKedushah, of course. The Vav, which is Gematria 6, represents the 6 Sefirot of Chesed, Gevura, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and the final Hey corresponds to Malchut. So it's actually inside Yud Kei Vav Kei's name that you find the Eser Sefirot deKedushah. So what he's really saying when he says Hashem is greater than all of the deities, he's admitting that he was wrong about idol worshipping, and he's saying that the Eser Sefirot deKedushah are greater than all the deities. What are all the deities? Referring to the klipot, referring to all of the forces of Tum'ah. Right? The klipot are called Elohim Acherim. Elohim Acherim means other gods, implying that they exist, but they are not the true God. They are not the ultimate thing. They were creations. Idol worshipping means that you are serving the creation. You are not giving credit where it's due, which is to the true master of the world. The creator of these idols that you're worshipping is looking at you and saying, hey, my eyes are up here, not down there. So our eyes, they need to adjust properly to recognize that this is the truth, that whenever we see this world and we think that this is the world of causes and you can create change by looking at this world, you missed the point. You totally missed the mark. Because the only way to create change in this world, in this lowly level of consciousness, is to first penetrate the higher worlds, which we refer to as the higher levels of your soul. Not just the nefesh, which we're on right now, but the ruach, the neshama, the chaya, the yechida, right? Learning how to go up step by step to higher levels of consciousness in order to create change in this world. That's how to create. You want to learn how to create? How to co-create in conjunction with Hashem? You want to be part of Hashem in His will of creating? Then you have to clean your vessel, emulate the attributes of Hashem, the 13 midot rachamim, engage in the mitzvot, fulfill them not just through action, but also with the proper kavanah, which means through chokhmat Kabbalah, engage in ma'asim tovim, good deeds, right? Gamilut chasadim, bestowing acts of loving kindness, but most importantly, limud Torah. The most important antidote, and we're really referring here to cures of diseases, mental, physical, emotional. You want to bring healing, you want to bring light, you want to bring holiness into your life? Limud Torah is the key throughout all of these questions that a person might ask. The Egyptians were connected to the side of Tum'ah. So unfortunately, they had to go along with Pharaoh and his army. Of course, actually Pharaoh does teshuvah at the end, believe it or not. Because the Yetzer Hara, which represents Pharaoh, does teshuvah. Believe it or not, a person can get to a level where their Yetzer Hara, their evil inclination, their nature, can transform into a force of holiness. Think of a dog. A dog is impure, very impure. But if you can learn to train this dog to serve the owner, and hopefully the owner has good intentions and is working for a higher purpose, therefore this dog which serves the owner is really serving the higher purpose. That's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara on its own is a wild beast, which wants nothing but to self-satisfy and to destroy the plan of Hashem and to self-destruct and to sabotage all forms of growth. Can transform into a force of holiness whenever you learn to tame your animal. Put a leash on your Yetzer Hara. And I'm really talking to myself. Now, if so that means that the main power is in the hands of the deKedushah. Because this is why it says, for the thing that they plotted with, he came upon them. For the thing that they zadu means that they plotted to scheme. The machinations of the mind of the evil people was to plot against the holy side. The word zadu has a lot of secrets in it. Meaning that with the thing that they plotted upon them, with the designs of Pharaoh in enslaving the Israelites, that thing in itself became struck, and the Mitzrim were struck. It turned on them. Their attempt to enslave the Israelites turned in on itself, and they were struck by the deKedushah, by their very own efforts. They brought their own destruction. And behold, in the word zadu, Zayin, Dalid, Vav, you've got a couple secrets here that are pointing to these ideas that we're speaking about. You have the letter Zayin, which is 7, Dalid, which is 4, Vav, which is 6. So if you refer to the Zayin and the Dalid, Zayin is 7, Dalid is 4, you get a total of 11. This is referring to the 11 Sefirot of Tum'ah. Then if you look at the Dalid with the Vav, you get 10, referring to the 10 Sefirot of Kedushah. Just reinforcing the ideas that we've already said, that there are 11 Sefirot of Tum'ah, 10 Sefirot of Kedushah, and yet the one with the 11 has a disadvantage over the one with the 10. Because the one with the 11 is unable to receive that Kedushah, which is the 11th Sefirah. It's really a spark of Kedushah, which is sustaining the 10 Sefirot of Tum'ah. Now let's go on to another verse where it says the following. But you shall choose out of the entire nation men of chayil, men of substance, God-fearers, men of truth, who hate monetary gain, and you shall appoint over them, meaning over Israel, leaders over thousands, leaders over hundreds, and leaders over 50s, and leaders over 10s. Yitro is giving some advice to Moses. Because at this point in the story, Yitro is fully convinced, fully submerged into the Israelite way of thinking. He's a convert. This parasha is the parasha of the 10 commandments, but they're not really called the 10 commandments, right? They're called the 10 sayings or the 10 utterances. Aseret hadibrot, they're called in Hebrew, not aseret mitzvot. This parasha is whenever we receive the 10 utterances. Why isn't it called the 10 utterances? Aseret hadibrot. That would have been a good name for the parasha. No? Or Yetziat Mitzrayim, fully coming out of Egypt. But no, Hashem chose to call this parasha Yitro, the name of a convert to Judaism. That should tell you something about the love that Hashem has for Gerim. Hashem ohev Gerim. We say it every day, over 3 times a day. So, if we actually look into these words, where it's discussing, where Yitro is giving advice to Moses about how to attend to the needs of the Israelites in a way that is more convenient for Moses and is more effective and meets the needs of all the people, Rabbi Abuchatzera opens his words with this verse. He says, it's possible to allude, Efshar lirmoz, according to what our sages, may their memories be blessed, said in Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, verse 1, Malachim tovim, good angels, are created through the ma'asim tovim, through the good deeds that a person does. A person performs a certain ma'asim tovim, good deed. He creates for himself an angel that is good. Yes, there is a difference between malachim tovim and malachim ra'im, because there are evil angels and there are positive ones. According to the quality of your thought, the quality of your speech, the quality of your actions, whether it's positive or negative. Because you're creating reverberations with everything that you do. Remember, you have power. Your thoughts have power, your words have power, and it goes without saying, your actions have power. So if one performs the mitzvah l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, then that means that he is actually bringing down deKedushah, which means he creates a holy and supreme angel from his actions. But if one performs a mitzvah lo lishma, not for its own sake, then he does not create malachim tovim. In fact, he creates malachim ra'im, and they go against him. They testify against him. Whenever you create the good angels, what you're really doing is you're creating lawyers for yourself in the Beit Shamayim, in the Beit Din of Shamayim. Right? So because there's a judgment day. Each person has a judgment. But the prosecuting angels in your court case, you create them. That's right. You are actually the one who is prosecuting yourself. According to the thoughts, speech, and actions that you do in this world. Whatever you prepare during the 6 days, that's what you eat on the 7th day. Just like the manna in the midbar that Hashem gave us. He said, prepare for the 7th day, because I'm not going to rain you any food on Shabbat. Sheshet ya'amei ta'avod. He tells us exactly what to do. Action. But Shevi'i, va'inafash. That's whenever you receive va'inafash, which means contentment, peace, rest. Yom ha'menucha. And that's why mincha, which is the same otiot as menucha, corresponds to the tefillah, which was instituted by who? Yitzchak. And after Yitzchak, we have Yaakov who comes in line, but the Arvit completes the day. Shema, meaning Shacharit, Mincha, Arvit, which we recite every single day. It's in the Shema even. The way we contact Israel is through the Shin Mem Ayin. Shem Ayin. Shem, there's so many secrets. I can go into so many directions with it. But Shem itself means name. The Ayin is enlarged, referring to the 70 nations. Because Ayin is 70. The Shem of the 70 nations, in the name of the 70 nations, we're calling on Israel. Because what is Israel's work? This is the part that people they overlook all of the time. What is the purpose of Israel? Why? Why? What's the purpose of Israel? Yashar El, Yud Shin Reish Aleph Lamed. Straight to God, what? To create a straight line between Hashem and this world, which includes the 70 nations. We're here to be a light to the 70 nations. The menorah represents the 70 nations. The 7 lower Sefirot, that is the 70 nations. The 7 laws of Noah, they're not here in vain. So we are actually responsible for them. It's a little bit of an uncomfortable responsibility, because we responsible for the 70 nations. There's 7.8 billion people. I can't even get my own act together. So this shows you the extent to which Hashem expects of Israel, the level of exalted holiness that he expects of his nation. But we should also remember that we are also growing. I mean, not only that we're growing, a lot of us, we were at a high madrega, high level. And through the negative choices that we have made through our many incarnations, we find ourselves in the positions that we are, with the lower state of consciousness. But you are a neshama kedushah. You're a holy neshama. The revelation of din is really the concealment of mercy. But by that same respect, it's to wake people up to invoke the mercy. Rachamim, mercy. how does it manifest itself in this creation? Time. Through time, Hashem gives us a chance to do teshuvah. And by that do we merit to be part of the Geulah. This is the most uncomfortable subject. For Jews even. Because we think, when Mashiach comes, we'll be good. Hashem loves His nation. But they forget the fact that in order to actually partake in the Messianic era, you have to prepare your vessel. If you've got a dirty vessel, you're not going to be able to benefit from the expensive wine that you pour into it. You can't. You've got to clean up the vessel. You've got to build the vessel as big as you can because you want more wine, don't you? I would like some more wine. So you've got to build the vessel. Not only clean it, but add to it to increase the amount of light that you can receive in the Zaman of Mashiach. And that's what Yitro was really telling Moshe. He was saying, choose the people among the nation of Israel whose good deeds are the Shem Shamayim, because they have the merit. They are the ones with the Chayalot Shel Malachim. Then you can merit to have Michael by your right side, Gabriel by your left side, Uriel in front of you, Raphael behind you, Shechinat El above your head. That's the kippah. Kippah is here to create a form of a barrier because you can only receive the light by restricting the light. This is the Kabbalistic principle that you learn in Kabbalah 101. All right. I threw a lot of things on here, but it's nothing new, right? We've already described this pretty much in every single parasha of the week to reinforce this idea that as time passes, it becomes more and more urgent, and I like to use the word urgent because it creates the sense of the urgency when you understand that we are right now in Gog Magog. Right now is Gog Magog. People who do not recognize it, that's really what Gog Magog is. It's a consciousness battle. People won't recognize it, and that's how it ends. But of course, there is a people, nation of Israel, select few within the nation of Israel, who have Chokhmat Kabbalah. They are the ones who not only they are bringing other people closer to be able to merit to experience the Geulah, but they are actually the merit upon whom we exist today. Tzaddikim are the Yesod of the Olam. Yesod is a Sefirah. Yesod is right above Malchut. It's the foundation of the kingdom. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next week's Parasha.